So apparently I'm a little late to the party. I actually saw this poll, but this is the first time I see an article about it. Basically, there's a poll out that's saying that young Democrats are less likely to want to hang out and be in a relationship with Republicans than the other way around. And we have Amanda Murcott from at Salon writing a little article about it. You have to give it to Axios. They know how to throw out some tasty bait. The latest is irresistible for conservatives who love any story that frames them as victims. It gives them the chance to blame the left for insensitivity. Never mind obvious counterexamples of such as the storming of the Capitol, gun-waving Christmas cards, and the entire person of Donald Trump. Which is, I mean, this is like right off the bat. You know, this article is accusing conservatives, or like, how many conservatives were at the storming of the Capitol? Do all the conservatives agree with that? That's like, I mean, I think the left would be appalled if you blame, like, oh, the George Floyd riots or whatever. Like, every single leftist was at the riot, you know, smashing like storefronts and stealing TVs. Young Dems more likely to despise the other party, Blair's Tuesday Axios headline, noting the article that 5% of Republicans said they wouldn't be friends with someone from the opposing party, compared to 37 of Democrats, and 71 of Democrats wouldn't go on a date with someone with opposing views versus 31 of Republicans. Unsurprisingly, this is delicious bait worked exactly as intended, at least in social media reactions. Well, I think something deeper is going on here. You know, I've seen examples where this is not quite true. I mean, I've heard of people going on dates, and the person was just a regular, actually not even like super politically oriented, but when they got on the date, this person was extreme progressive, extreme feminist, extreme SJW, and they turned them on so much, and then later on when they became political, they kind of understood what was going on. But just being a progressive or just being an extreme side of the other it's not exactly, you know, even unpolitical people are not going to be super excited about it, or this is like would turn them on. However, there is something to human psychology where I guess the way we evolved, our like conservatives tend to be more of managers, and liberals tend to be more of artists. I don't know what it is about our genetic makeup, and there is a certain appeal to hang out with artists, to hang out with people that create things like this. You know, that's why probably a lot of prominent Republicans and prominent conservatives, when they become famous, they eventually start to kind of bend their politics leftward to appease their lefty friends, because they want to keep being friends with their artist or influential lefty friends. Just a hypothesis here. Unsurprisingly, okay. On the right, there was a lot of trumpeting how this is supposed to prove that the left are the ones who are really intolerant. Radio talker Matt Murphy whined that liberals don't believe in our republic, cannot abide who think differently than them, and if not getting to have sex with them to go on parties with liberals, exactly the same thing as having your basic rights as citizens stripped from you. It doesn't bode well, complained GOP lawmaker and ABC commentator Sarah Uger, who previously defended the Trump administration policy of separating families at the U.S.-Mexican border as a former spokesman for the Justice Department. Well, Jesus Christ. It's like the Biden administration is doing that as well, the same thing too. And people who voted Biden, are they going to be uninvited from the fucking cocktail parties? It doesn't matter, man. This is all bullshit window dressing. if you just have a D under your name, or I mean, you know, Democrats or like white Democrats can get away with saying a lot of more racist stuff. They have way higher tolerance because, hey, Democrats don't want to punch left, and they easily forget their own side. The most fascinating friendships have always come from the other side, MSNBC co-host Joe Scarborough tweeted, noting that as a Republican, we have always benefited from those conversations. As many people pointed out in the response, however, that Republican Scarborough gained from friendship with people like John Lewis, Elijah Cummings, or Maxine Waters. Oh yeah, Maxine Waters. I'm sure it was such an intellect. Spice up anybody's life. Doesn't mean the reverse is true. And most likely what this poll is picking up. This is about desirability, not tolerance. Democrats are desirable as friends and lovers, and not just to their fellow party members, but to Republicans as well. But Republicans, they apparently don't have much to offer Democrats as friends, and certainly not as lovers. Digging into the polling shows why this is. The Axios write-up by Neil Rothschild notes, young Democrats believe that GOP positions spearheaded by the former President Trump are far outside the mainstream and polite conversation. In particular, human rights and not just policy differences are at stake, which is no duh. Just last week, the GOP-controlled Supreme Court made it clear they plan to strip basic bodily autonomy rights from everyone with a uterus. The Republican Party is rallying around violent white supremacist rhetoric, and when what the fuck is she referring to here? Let's see. And oh yeah, okay. God damn this ad. Basically, this link just goes into Kyle Rittenhouse and how he was exonerated, and how Republicans are so bloodthirsty for political violence. They just love to parade Kyle Rittenhouse through all their put on their platform because they want to spawn a million more Kyle Rittenhouses to apparently just commit political violence. A white supremacist takeover, apparently. Keeping those folks activated and engaged means dangling the fantasy of political violence. Trump and Carson get that, which is why they determined to turn Rittenhouse into a right-wing hero. But okay. I accidentally skipped some of this article. Where was that at here? So, okay. But again, the question is why? Most available evidence suggests that not only can Trump's desired fascist takeover happen without violence, it would actually be more likely to work if it was bloodless. The best weapon of the 21st century's autocrat is not violence, but demoralization, wearing down the opposition or make it seem that there's no legal avenues to save democracy. As Michelle Goldberg explained on Monday at the New York Times, there's a growing hopelessness born of a sense of dislodging Trump has brought American democracy only in the brief reprieve, and the result progressive repeating into private life to preserve their sanity. What private life? I mean, when Trump was president, you were hailed a hero criticizing him. The more you criticized, the more popular you were. It's not some people were like shunned and ostracized. Readily, a Harvard poll from last week shows more than half of young Americans feel democracy in the country is under threat, and over a third think they may see a second U.S. Civil War within their lifetimes. This isn't about a political dispute over marginal tax rates. If you quite correctly believe that Republicans are plotting to destroy democracy, then why would you want to be friends with people who support that? Jesus. democracy this, democracy that. I mean, Donald Trump was elected democratically, right? Or no, he wasn't. It was some Russian hacking of the polls or the voting booths. I mean, they only care about democracy when they think that the popular majority opinion is on their side, and let's say if people vote in a different way that's non-progressive, then they'll throw that democracy out the window, and they need to fortify their elections or resist by any means possible or whatever. So this democracy rhetoric is so shallow to me. Unsurprisingly, female Democrats were more likely than male Democrats to reject dating someone who's voted for the opposing presidential candidate, i.e. Trump, which isn't about personal taste but safety. Trump has not only bragged about how he likes to grab him by the pussy. Yes, if Trump is elected, he will grab your pussy as well. But as long as track record of aggressively defending men who have been accused of sexual or domestic violence. This is just common sense to refuse to be alone with men who are fine with that attitude, and no different than watching your drink at a party or having a friend walk you home at night. In addition, having sex with a man who back the party of forced childbirth is just ill-advised. Yeah, well, on the other hand, I mean, isn't there a bit of an issue with women complaining that more and more men are demasculated, more like female, and they're not manly and that's not sexy? As a matter of fact, this poll might not represent the whole truth. I could see a lot of progressive or lefty girls actually secretly liking or hooking up with like the quote-unquote the rebel, the bad boy, who might have politically incorrect attitudes. And that gets to the crux of it. Dating and friendships aren't about merely tolerating someone. It's about inviting someone to your life as a confidant or even as on an intimate level. Relationships take work to maintain. Why waste that effort on someone who can't meet baseline requirements of seeing you or other people in your life as full human beings? And no, being personally pro-choice or pro-LGBT rights hardly counts when you keep voting for the party that opposes both. Well, the same thing could be thrown back at the left. I mean, we have a duopoly here, right? And there's other issues besides abortion, right? I mean, I support low taxes, especially for myself, and I know a lot of people around me support higher taxes for everybody. So to me, that's like enslaving more and more of my life hours, more and more of my time. With if they had their choice, if their candidate were to win, if you know what I mean, if they had their political wishes fulfilled, I would be taxed more and more, and then I would have to work more and more and more to pay these taxes, waste more and more of my life. So basically, how can I be friends with or interact with people that want to do that to me, enslave more and waste more of my time? Well, I don't know. I just think they're misinformed, right? I give them the benefit of the doubt. I don't think there's bad people that want to punish me directly as a person. The anger on the right over this polling, in truth, shows that this isn't reality about liberal intolerance, but an ugly sense of entitlement among conservatives. It's fueled by a belief that they should also be obnoxious, cruel, bigoted as they want, without having to pay any social penalty for it. That attitude is especially troubling when it comes to dating, and it's tied to long-standing sex assumptions that women owe men their time and attention, even when they don't find them attractive. Indeed, this entitlement itself is a red flag. Someone who doesn't respect the right to choose when you spend time with someone who's likely to violate other boundaries. What's all this whining about quote-unquote cancel culture from the right is about? It's very rarely, if ever, about actual government censorship. Yeah, no shit. Cancel culture is about squeezing the neck, squeezing one neck, not the government's neck, squeezing the neck of like Facebook, Instagram, or like the employer to have you lose your job, or you you lose a place to bank at, or squeezing the Patreon or whatever the fuck. Who's complaining about cancel culture? Who has the government been canceling? We have the freedom of speech. We have the First Amendment. The government's canceling people is not the real issue right now. That's not even the people what people are talking about. On the contrary, conservatives are all for government censorship, especially books and other materials that tell the truth about American racism. Well, I love this, that tell the truth here. Oh, you mean like school books? Well, I could see, let's say, oh, I don't know. Let's say the conservatives just, or not even the conservatives, some group of activists thought it would be cool for pre-high schoolers to read Charles Murray, The Bell Curve, and other parents would want to ban that. Say like, hey, these kids they don't want this propaganda or whatever. It's like, oh, look, you guys are pro censorship. You guys want to ban books. Well, it's not that they want to ban these books so you can't read them. It's a culture war over what is taught in school. Conservatives are angry rather over the social penalties for their repulsive opinions, like being criticized publicly, being excluded from certain conversations, and generally being disliked. It's conservatives in D.C. whining to the press that they can't get hot dates. And by hot dates, I mean this could be probably an empirical test. You would have like a scientific in like a laboratory with like a scientific assessment of a female's attractiveness, and then poll her on her political beliefs. Does she really think that liberals are hotter than like conservative women? I don't know. I don't know. I wouldn't bet on that. Sure, conservatives can and occasionally entertain the idea of creating their own social networks and eventually universities so they can hang out with each other instead of constantly demanding attention from liberals. But apparently they don't like each other's company any more than liberals do, and so they always circle back to yelling at liberals, accusing the left of intolerance for finding right-wingers unpleasant to be around. Well, unfortunately, because of network effects, if you post stuff on social media, you want, especially if you're trying to make an impact, you want the most amount of people to see it. So, then that means that's the mainstream social media platforms like Facebook and Instagram or whatever, Twitter. But I'm still holding out hope. I think there are going to be alternatives, more free speech alternatives, not necessarily like quote unquote conservative echo chambers, but or maybe completely decentralized when you just post pictures or thoughts or whatever, tweets, quote unquote, and you can have all sorts of it's completely decentralized, where you can have different apps to filter what people see, so people could be uncancelable. You can just block people if you want to. That'd be great. Ultimately, however, it comes back to this: no one is entitled to anyone's social attention or friendship, much less dating relationship with them, if friendships and romantic relationships with progressives are so desirable. Which is a progressive, I totally agree, it's true. Then the way to obtain it is to suck less. Oh, this is the thought that just came in my mind too. Yeah, so looking into history, I remember that back in the 40s and 50s, all the artists, the cool kids, they were all supporting socialism, Stalin and Mao. And people who went to those countries and tried to burst their like hype bubble saying like, hey, these places people are starving. There's gulags, concentration camps. Well, those people too, got disinvited from cocktail parties, or too were unpopular. So just because you have the political beliefs that are popular with the majority of people, or the cool people, or the hot people, or the attractive people, doesn't mean that they're right. I mean, actually, it was. I love the saying that Peter Thiel has, which is like a quick shortcut. If you can't say it, it's politically correct to say it. Most likely, it's true. This is a pretty good heuristic. Which, yes, starts with not voting for Donald Trump. This strategy of whining about cancel culture and social scolding Democrats for intolerance isn't going to open up those cocktail party invitations any faster. Well, that's the thing. It's like, do you want to live life congruently? Do you want to live life speaking the truth? Or do you want to just be a fraud and, keep your mouth shut just so you can go to these quote-unquote cocktail parties? Yelling at people to like you isn't a way to be liked. It just reaffirms a progressive that for mental health reasons, it's time exposed to right-wingers best kept at a minimum. Good luck, young Democrats, for seeing clearly what Joe Scarborough, one of the world's, doesn't want you to see. Yeah, I mean, talk about a nasty, intolerant person. Obviously, they're probably not as bad in real life because they're just trying to play up or trying to be snarky or whatever. But I don't know, it's pretty bad.